Don't sit still. Whatever you do, keep moving, let your body be free, and don't sit still. I'm Annalouise, and that's the topic of today. Don't sit still. This came up for me because I recently joined this lovely little choir and we were singing some songs. I noticed just how much I was moving, just spontaneously. And I was also noticing how many people weren't moving. And everyone was singing and enjoying the singing, but it was like a lot of people's bodies were quite static. And it really came home to me how we've been programmed, many of us have been programmed in our childhood to withhold our movement and to restrict it and not to allow ourselves to be free and to be constantly discovering new movement possibilities. Were you, when you were little, told to sit still or not move or not fidget, maybe, or sit down and concentrate? Were any of those things familiar to you as a child? I think it was a generational thing that it was sensed that if we're moving, we're not concentrating. How could we be moving and concentrating? I, myself, in my experience, feel the complete opposite is true. That if I'm moving, I'm learning so much more and I'm able to be so attentive because I'm just letting my body be free and all of the information to pass through my body. And my mind is so engaged, whereas if I start repressing my body, then it's harder for me to concentrate. And of course, we're all wired differently, and some people might find that being really, really still helps concentrate for certain things, and maybe for other things it doesn't help so much. I'm sure that's probably true for me. There are some things where I like to be stiller, and other things where moving really, really helps. Why I'm recording this video is just to help us liberate ourselves from any conditioning that we may have in place. So whether it's we're part of a little choir group or whether we're in some sort of environment where we're supposed to sit still, or whether it's just in our homes, freeing ourselves up to think, what would it be like if I was a kid right now? If I was my 3-year-old or my 5-year-old or my 7-year-old or my 9-year-old, what would I be doing with my body? How would that feel? And it feels to me so refreshing. I notice sometimes I'm talking on the phone to someone and like my legs might be up in the air, might be lying on the floor, my legs up in the air. And I feel very present in that conversation. Like having my legs in the air doesn't affect my attentiveness. It expands it. It expands it. Yeah. And I've definitely had to untrain some of the inhibitions that I had. Some of the inhibitions? Is that the right word? Some of the restrictions I put in place. Yeah, I've definitely had to untrain a lot of those. So for you, if you take, say, from when you were 3 years old to 5 years to 7 years to 9, then a teenager, then an adult, then in your 20s, whatever age you might be now, how do you feel your spontaneity, your impulsiveness, the quantity and the creativity of your music, I've got music on my mind, your movement has changed? Yeah, like what? Yeah, do you feel like you're less spontaneous, less free with your movement now, or do you feel like you're more spontaneous? It may be that as a child you felt very restricted and now you're like feeling much more free. Where do you fit on that scale? And what would you like for yourself? Would you like for yourself to feel really uninhibited and just to be able to move how you feels good to you, whatever movement comes through the body naturally without thinking, not some sort of idea of movement, but just whatever freely wants to express through the body. What's that sense? What does that bring up in you? Does it bring up like a, yes, that would be so nice to be even more free in my movement? Or does it bring up like, maybe, but I'm not too sure? Or does it bring up like, that feels pretty scary? Or maybe people might think I'm weird? Or what else? Yeah, I'm curious. I'm really curious. Tell me what your response is, and do post it below for us to all share, because of course we're all unique in our experience and our reactions, and by sharing we all learn from each other. Yeah. I like in every day to discover a new movement possibility, and it doesn't have to be conscious, but this sense of I'm using my body in new ways. When we're little, we're constantly using our body in different ways. We're expanding our sense of possibility in our movement. We might be even learning to ride a bike, or discovering how to walk for the first time, or learning how to do something like tie our shoelaces. There's not a day that goes past that we're not assimilating a load of new movement possibilities. And that, in my experience, makes a world very curious and expansive place to be in, and a place of growth. And typically as we get older, we might be learning less things day to day, because so many of our things are habitualized, right? We know how to brush our teeth, probably. We maybe have to cook our dinner a bit habitually. We know how to walk, perhaps. We've got all of these movements that we do without thinking. And when we do them without thinking, or in that place of really open curiosity, we do them in the same way. Our muscles are working the same way, our posture's working in the same way. One of the things that I love to open myself to is allowing my body to move free of its habitual tendencies and free of my mind. So if I'm walking, perhaps just experiment, like how would it be if I just have the intention of walking without knowing how I'm going to do it? And see what my body wants to do, rather than the habits that I've created over my lifetime. And I'm constantly surprised at how different it might feel and the new possibilities that come through. So I invite you, when you're doing something habitual, to slow it down and be curious, like a baby is when they're exploring their world and like reaching out for things. Like there's so many dimensions in their movement. Whereas when we reach out, we've trained that this is the most efficient way to reach out, for instance, and we try and go direct. But actually, in doing so, we might be shutting off a whole load of movement possibilities throughout our whole body. Whereas if we go, I wonder what it would be like just to allow my body to explore how it wants to travel in this direction, and then my awareness becomes super open. I can hear the silence. I can feel like when things want to move back as well as potentially want to move out again. It's not like something in just only one direction. And then interestingly, the little objective I set for myself of having this intention to move in that direction has now really shifted spontaneously. My mind had let go of that, and I'm exploring a much wider space around me. And I'm noticing in my body that it feels like a relief. It feels open. It feels very free. There's a great amount of presence because I've stopped the end gaming and I'm just allowing the spontaneous movement. You can tell my voice has gone, or my speech has gone a lot slower because my mind, it feels like it just wants to stop because I'm in more of a pure experience of the movement. And it feels good, So maybe you can, how about you try that with me now? So just with your hands, imagine you're moving towards something. Let go of knowing how to do it and let the movement come from the body. Not needing to analyze, not needing to make sense of the movements. Our bodies crave to, or the words that come to me are be in charge. Charge can have, the word charge can have charge to it, can't it? Letting our bodies be the sensory discovering beings that they are. I'm feeling a lot of sensitivity in my fingers, a lot of awareness and space around my fingers and my hands. What are you noticing? Yes, in that little short experiment, did you find it easy just to let go and allow your body to move, or did you feel it was a little bit unhabitual? All is good. It's all just a new thing to explore with. Again, you can post your comments below. And if you've liked this video so far, you can press the subscribe button and a little bell for notifications. I like doing videos to help us understand more about our experience and allow ourselves to become more present and live in a way that feels like it's more true to us. Yeah, so do subscribe if you're enjoying this. So don't sit still. What happens when I say to you, I really don't want you to stand or sit still right now? No, please don't stand still. Again, just noticing what comes up, whether it's like, oh, I don't really know what to do, or yay, that's great, I don't know how to sit or stand still. Again, just seeing our conditioning playing into us. Yeah. What little tips have I got to start experimenting with becoming more like our child again? That curious physical being. I don't know whether you watch TV. I must admit, I don't tend to watch much TV, but being in front of the TV, I think, is a great example of where kids might be moving all the time, right? They might be playing with their things, they just might like stretching, they might be down this way, then they might be turning around. And when adults watch TV, from what I've seen, is often they are less mobile. So if you perhaps watch TV, you could just experiment what it might be like to embody your younger self, whatever age feels good to you. You could just, what age should I feel like embodying? Oh, I'll try being 13, or I'll try being 8. And watch TV from that perspective for 5 minutes and see how it feels. The other thing is being open to new ways of moving. I think if we develop a mindset of being curious and allowing our bodies to explore and constantly opening ourselves to using our bodies in different ways, we sometimes can suddenly be surprised at how our bodies spontaneously move without even beginning to think about it. I remember once a few years ago, I'd opened a cutlery drawer and I was doing something and I was thinking, oh, I'll close that cutlery drawer. And without even thinking about it, rather than my arm going to close the drawer, which is what I would normally do, my leg just went up from the side and my foot just closed the cutlery drawer. And I was like, oh, that's new. Only the conscious part of it only happened after the event. And I think that's so beautiful about opening ourselves, is that life becomes more of a discovery. And it doesn't matter what age we are. It may be, you're watching this, it may be you saying, oh, I'm too old for this. I think actually the opposite is true, is the older we get, the more important it is to allow ourselves to experience more movement and to discover more possibilities. Obviously within our whole life, listening to our body, right? Not doing things that are going to put us at unnecessary risk. And that's the beauty of this slow movement, is that we're really deeply listening. We're deeply in touch. We're not moving through pain, or we're not pushing ourselves. It's the opposite. We're being so beautifully attentive and caring and allowing our body to discover where it wants to go. I realise I've talked about this before, but like if I fall and hurt myself, rather than just push away from that in a way that's sort of, I allow my body to discover how it wants to unfold that impact. And just super patient, allowing that impact to come undone in a way that feels really true to my body, rather than some idea of what needs to happen with my mind. I think movement is great fun, whether that's swinging on a swing, it's splashing our feet in a puddle, whether it's dancing spontaneously with a friend. Like I have this gorgeous friend, and when I see her, we're both so excited that often we'll just grab hands and then start swinging around in a circle and start skipping for joy, like we were both 7 years old. And I love that liberty, and I know how hard it can be to imagine that if we've been in a place where we've been really still. And I've been, for many years of my life, I've been in places where I was deeply, deeply still. And obviously there's beautiful openings that can happen through stillness. I'm not suggesting that we don't also embrace our stillness, because magic happens there too. I'm just encouraging us to open up to all of ourselves. I would again love to hear more from you. Please do post below, and if you have anything to say, do share it. And if you think of someone this might be helpful for, then do share it. If you just have got someone coming to mind, share it on, and let's all encourage more movement in all of our friends and the people around us. See who else has an impulse for this journey of discovery in life. Wishing you a wonderful day and some new movement possibilities.